It was a cold and rainy evening. The street was quiet, and most people were inside their homes. Zane, a young man in his early 20s, walked alone under his black hoodie. He had just finished work and was tired. The sound of water hitting the ground was the only thing he heard, but Zane felt something strange. He stopped walking and looked behind him. The street was empty, but he felt like someone was watching him, probably my imagination. He whispered and continued walking. As he reached his small apartment building, he took out his keys. That's when he heard footsteps, slow and careful. He turned quickly. Young woman stood in the rain. She had long black hair, pale skin, and shining green eyes. Her clothes were not wet, even though she had no umbrella. She didn't look scared. She didn't speak. "Can I help you?" Zane asked, holding his keys tightly. She took a small step forward and said something that froze Zane in place. "Do you recognize me, human? I'm your childhood neighbor." Zane blinked. What did she just say? "Sorry, what?" he asked, trying to laugh. Is this some kind of joke? She didn't smile. Her eyes stayed locked on his. "My name is Leary," she said. "We used to play together when we were kids. We were 10 years old." Zane shook his head. He didn't remember anyone named Leary. "I think you've got the wrong guy." "I don't," she replied. "You used to live on Hill Street. Your favorite toy was a red robot. You were afraid of frogs but loved looking at the stars." Zane's heart started beating faster. How did she know all that? He stared at her face. She did look familiar, but something was off. Her eyes were too bright. Her voice was calm but strange, almost like music. She walked closer. Zane took a step back. "What do you want?" "I want you to remember," she said. "I need your help. The world is in danger." Zane opened the door to his apartment, but didn't go inside. "You're crazy," he said. "I don't know you. Leave me alone." But then she said something that made him freeze again. "You remember the tree house in the forest behind our houses? You and I built it. One day, we found a glowing rock there. You touched it and passed out. After that, you forgot." Zane's eyes widened. He did have dreams about a glowing rock. He always thought they were just dreams. And the forest. He hadn't thought about that place in years. "How do you know about that?" He whispered. "I was there. After you touched the rock, I was taken. But not by humans." "Taken by who?" She looked up at the sky. A soft light passed across her face. "By the ones who gave us the rock. I lived with them. I trained. Now I've come back." Zane didn't know what to say. His hands were shaking. "Please," she said, "let me come inside. I'll explain everything." Against his better judgment, Zane stepped aside. She walked in slowly, looking around like she had been here before. Zane closed the door. They sat in the small living room. Zane kept staring at her. "Why do you look the same? If we were 10, that was 12 years ago. You should be older." Leary smiled slightly. "Time moves differently where I was." She rolled up her sleeve. On her arm was a glowing mark. It looked like a tattoo, but it moved like liquid light. Zane felt dizzy looking at it. "This is not a trick," she said. "I'm not lying. You and I were friends. More than that, we shared something. And now, the people who gave us the rock are not the only ones watching Earth." "What do you mean?" Zane asked. "There's something else. A shadow that's growing. It wants to take Earth. I came back to find you. You're not just a normal human, Zane. You were chosen too." Suddenly, the lights in the apartment flickered. Zane looked around. "What was that?" "They're watching," she whispered. "We don't have much time. You have to remember who you are." Zane stood up, confused, scared, and angry. "This is insane. I don't even know you." But in that moment, a memory flashed in his mind. A little girl with green eyes, holding his hand, laughing, pointing at a glowing rock in the forest. His heart skipped a beat. Could it be true? Zane couldn't sleep that night. Even with the door locked and the lights on, he felt like something was inside the room, something watching him from the corners. The girl Leary was real. He saw her, touched her, listened to her voice. And the strangest part? Deep inside, something about her felt familiar. She had taken the small couch in the living room. She didn't sleep. She just sat there with her eyes open, staring at nothing. Her green eyes glowed softly in the dark, like tiny stars. Zane turned in bed again. He tried to tell himself it was all fake. A trick. Maybe she was some crazy girl who read his old diary or found information about him online. But what about the mark on her arm? What about the childhood memory she reminded him of? He never told anyone about the glowing rock in the forest. Suddenly, the room became cold. Zane sat up. The window was closed, but his breath came out like fog. He rubbed his arms, confused. Then he heard a sound like footsteps, not from inside the apartment, but from outside his bedroom window. He got up slowly and looked through the curtain. There was no one there. But on the glass, a thin layer of frost had formed, even though it was summer. He turned around quickly. Leary was standing behind him. You felt it too, she said softly. What is it? Zane whispered. They know I'm here, she replied. And now they know about you. Zane's heart dropped. Who are they? He asked. She walked to the wall and placed her hand on it. A glowing circle appeared under her palm. It faded fast like a pulse. They have many names, she said. But the real one is the Shroud. They hide in shadows. They take forms. They've been coming to Earth for years, quietly, secretly. Most people never notice them, but some do, people like us. Zane stepped back. What do they want? They want control, she said. Of minds, of bodies, of the whole planet. Zane stared at her. And what do you want? Leary looked at him with soft eyes. I want to stop them. Zane laughed nervously. You make it sound like I'm some kind of superhero. You're not, she said. You're just a human. But you touched something years ago. Something not meant for humans, and it changed you. You just don't remember it yet. Zane looked away. His mind hurt. This was too much, but still. He remembered something strange. Years ago, when he was a kid, he had a dream. In the dream, he saw stars falling from the sky. He was in the forest. Leary was there. She was crying. He was holding her hand, and something bright was glowing between them. It felt real. Too real. He never told anyone about that dream. He looked at Leary again. Why me? Why not someone else? Because you're connected to them too, she said. The Alari, my people. I wasn't born completely human, Zane. I'm a hybrid. My mother was from Earth. My father was not. Zane's hand started shaking. She reached out and touched his wrist. You're not a hybrid like me, but the rock gave you something. Link. That's why you remember pieces. That's why I came back for you. Suddenly, a loud knock hit the front door. Zane jumped. I went silent. The knock came again, this time slower. 3 times, Zane whispered. Who could it be at this hour? Leary's voice became sharp. Don't answer it. The knocking stopped. Then came a voice. A soft, strange voice. Zane. Open the door. He froze. It was his boss, Mr. Keller, from the hardware store. But his voice, it didn't sound right. It was too calm. Too smooth. I know you're in there, Zane. We need to talk. Leary grabbed Zane's arm and pulled him back from the door. That's not your boss, she whispered. It's one of them. Zane's mouth went dry. How does he know where I live? He whispered. They always know, she said. They've been watching you longer than you think. Another knock. This time harder. I'll come back, the voice said. But next time. She won't be with you. Then silence. Zane stood Still for a long time, heart racing, Leary finally let go of his arm. "Now you believe me?" Zane didn't answer, he just nodded. Zane didn't open the door for 2 days. He barely ate, barely slept. Every sound outside made his heart jump. Was it Mr. Keller again? Or something worse? Leary stayed in the apartment. She didn't eat or sleep either. She just stood near the window and watched the sky like she was waiting for something. Zane didn't know if he trusted her, but he didn't tell her to leave. A part of him was afraid to be alone. On the 3rd night, Zane woke up from a strange dream. He was floating in space. Cold, empty space. He couldn't breathe. Couldn't move, but something was calling him from far away. A voice soft and familiar. It wasn't Leary, it was himself. When he opened his eyes, the room was dark. But something glowed in the mirror. He stood up and walked closer. There was light under his skin. Thin lines like wires glowing faintly across his arms and neck. He rubbed them. Nothing changed. He wasn't dreaming. He rushed into the living room. "Leary," he said, his voice shaking. "What's happening to me?" She turned to him, calm. "You're waking up." He backed away. "Waking up to what? What's inside me?" She stepped forward slowly. "It's not something inside you. It's something that was always part of you. Hidden, sleeping, until now." Zane shook his head. "I'm human. I've always been human." "You are," Leary said. "But you touched the stone. That means your body accepted something from the stars. A signal, a key." Zane started to feel dizzy. "This doesn't make sense." Leary walked to the table and pulled something out of her jacket, a small silver object shaped like a triangle. She pressed her finger to it, and it unfolded into a glowing blue screen. "What is that?" Zane asked. "A memory device," she said. "From my people." The screen showed an image. A younger version of Zane, standing in the forest as a child. His hand reaching toward a large black rock. Leary was beside him in the picture, smiling. Zane stepped back. That's me." "Yes," she said. This was recorded by the stone. It was not a normal rock. It was a gate. He stared at the screen, lost in confusion and fear. "Why me? Why not someone smarter? Someone stronger?" Leary looked at him gently. "Because you were kind. You didn't run when you saw the light. You reached out. That choice connected you. You are not a warrior, Zane. You are a bridge." Suddenly, the screen turned red. Leary's face changed, serious. "They found us." Zane's eyes widened. "Here? Now?" She turned off the device. "We need to leave." "Leave and go where?" he asked. She looked at him for a long moment. "Somewhere only I can take you." Before Zane could respond, the window cracked with a sharp sound. The glass bent inward, like something was pushing from outside. Zane ran for the door. Leary caught his hand. "Not the door. They're already there." The light bulb above them popped. Darkness dot in the silence. They both heard it, a whisper. From the wall, from the floor, from the air. "She's not yours, Zane." Zane's skin went cold. "Who said that?" The walls began to shimmer. Leary pulled him toward the bathroom. She closed the door and placed her hand on the mirror. A soft light flowed from her palm. The mirror rippled like water. "This is our way out," she said. "What is this?" Zane asked. "A gate, like the one we found as children, but smaller." The door behind them rattled. Then a voice from the hallway. It was Mr. Keller again. "Zane, open the door. I'm worried about you. You haven't come to work." Zane whispered. "He sounds normal." Leary said, "That's what they do. They sound like someone you trust, until it's too late." Zane looked at the mirror, then back at the door. Then he made a choice. He stepped into the light. Zane fell through light. Not air, not water, just light. He couldn't see where he was going. There was no ground, no sky, only a tunnel of white, like stars stretching around him. He couldn't scream, couldn't breathe. But he didn't feel like he was dying. It felt like he was being moved. Then, suddenly, everything stopped. He landed on something solid, cold, smooth. His knees hit the ground hard. He looked up. They were in a large cave, dark stone walls, glowing lines on the floor, and strange shapes carved into the rock. The air smelled old, like it hadn't been touched in hundreds of years. Leary stood beside him, calm as always. "We're safe, for now." Zane looked around, breathing fast. "Where are we?" "Below the city," she said. "Far below." He looked at the walls. The glowing lines were symbols, not letters, but alien markings. Some of them looked like eyes. Others looked like stars. Zane reached out and touched one of the lines. It pulsed under his fingers. Leary turned quickly. "Don't touch anything unless I say so." Zane pulled his hand back. "What is this place?" She walked to the center of the cave. "This is one of the first Alari chambers built on Earth. It was hidden long ago. Only a few can enter. You are one of them now." Zane didn't know how to feel. Just days ago, he was a normal guy with a job and a quiet life. Now he was standing in a secret alien chamber under the city, being hunted by something called the Shroud. He sat down, dizzy. "Why is this happening to me?" Leary didn't answer right away. She stood still, eyes closed, hands touching the wall. The room began to glow brighter. A sound echoed from deep inside the stone. A hum, like a machine waking up. Leary opened her eyes. "They're searching for us." Zane stood. "The Shroud?" She nodded. "They know you're changing. You're becoming harder to track, harder to control. That makes you dangerous to them." "But I don't even know what I am," Zane said. "I don't have powers. I'm not strong. I'm not ready." "You will be," Leary said. "You were chosen for a reason." Zane turned away. "I didn't choose any of this." Leary stepped closer. "No, you didn't, but you did choose kindness. You chose bravery when you were just a child. You stepped forward when others ran. That matters more than you think." Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the chamber. Zane froze. "What was that?" Leary's body tensed. She pulled out a small black device from her jacket. It lit up red. "They found the outer gate," she whispered. "We need to move." Zane followed her deeper into the chamber. The walls got narrower. The light dimmed. He looked behind them. Something moved in the shadows. It wasn't human. He grabbed Leary's arm. "There's something following us." She didn't look back. "Keep walking." Then a voice echoed through the chamber. Not loud but close. It sounded like Zane's own voice. "Leary, why are you running?" Zane's blood ran cold. "That's not me." The voice came again. "Zane, she's lying to you. She isn't what she says." Zane looked at Leary. "Is that them, the Shroud?" "They don't always take form," she said. "Sometimes they take voices. They enter your mind. Can they see through me?" Zane asked. "They're trying." The walls started to shift. The markings changed. The eyes on the wall turned to mouths open, wide, whispering. Zane put his hands over his ears. "I can hear them," he said. "They're inside my head." Leary reached out and grabbed his hand. "Focus on my voice. Just mine." The whispers grew louder. "Zane, you don't belong with her. She's one of them." "She's not," he said, eyes shut tight. "She'd betray you." Zane opened his eyes. "No." The wall suddenly stopped moving. The whispers went silent. Leary looked at him, surprised. "You blocked them," she said. "You did that on your own." Zane stepped back. "How? You're stronger than they expected." Before he could reply, a door opened in the stone. A new room appeared, round, silver, with floating lights and one large object in the middle. It looked like a chair, but it was alive, breathing. "This is where it begins," Leary said. What begins? Zane asked. She looked at him, eyes serious. You're awakening. The chair was waiting. It didn't look like metal or plastic. It moved like skin, soft and slow, as if it was breathing. Light ran through it like blood. Zane didn't want to go near it. But he couldn't stop staring. It knows you, Leary said. Zane took a step back. I don't know it. You will, she said. This is an Alari core seat. It reads you. It speaks to the part of you that's still asleep. Zane shook his head. What if I don't want to wake up? Leary stepped beside him. If you don't, the shroud will win. He didn't answer. His hands were cold. His heart beat too fast. But something inside him deep, buried, pulled him forward. He placed one hand on the seat. It opened. Thin lines of light spread across the floor, up the walls, into the air. The whole room changed. The chair leaned back slowly, like it was inviting him in. Zane looked at Leary. You're ready, she said. He sat down. At first, nothing happened. Then came the pain. A sharp burst hit the back of his neck. His body jerked. His chest burned like fire. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. Images flooded his mind. Stars, fire, a planet made of glass, faces he didn't know. Voices in a strange language. He saw the forest again, but it was wrong. Darker, empty. Then the glowing rock appeared. He reached out, like before, but this time it opened and inside was light. Too bright, too loud, then silence. Zane opened his eyes. He was still in the room, but everything looked different. He could see tiny lights moving through the air. He could hear the sound of Leary's heartbeat. He could feel the cold fear coming from the walls. Everything spoke to him now, even things that had no voice. Leary stepped closer. You connected. Zane stood slowly. I saw them, the Alari. I saw their world. You touched their memory, she said. Now they know you. Zane blinked. I know how to stop the shroud. Leary looked surprised. You do? He nodded. Not everything, but something. I saw a place, not here. Not even on Earth. It's where the first shroud touched. Our world. Leary's voice dropped. The gate. Zane turned toward her. We have to find it. Before she could answer, the lights in the room flickered. The walls began to shake. Zane looked around. What's happening now? They found us again, Leary said. We need to move. But the doorway they came through was gone. The cave had sealed itself. Then the room darkened. In the middle of the chamber, a shadow formed. Not a person, not a creature, but something in between. Its shape changed every second. Its voice came from all directions. Too late, little spark. Zane stepped in front of Leary without thinking. Who are you? The shadow laughed. I am what you left behind. I am your silence. I am your doubt. Leary grabbed Zane's arm. It's a mind husk. A piece of the shroud. The voice echoed. You think you're chosen, but you're only marked. Like all the others, and they all broke. Zane stepped forward. Then why am I still standing? The shadow paused. You are not like them, it said. You are louder, and that makes you dangerous. Zane reached into his jacket without thinking. He didn't even remember putting something there, but now it was in his hand. A small, smooth stone. The one from the forest. It glowed in his palm. The shadow hissed. Leary's eyes widened. You kept it. I didn't know, Zane said. It came to me. The light from the stone spread across the room. The shadow screamed. Then, silence. When the light faded, the shadow was gone. The walls stopped shaking. Leary stared at him. You're changing fast. Zane looked at the stone. So is the world. The sky was wrong. Zane stood at the edge of the old city ruins, staring upward. The stars were still there, but they didn't blink. They didn't move. They felt frozen, as if the night itself had stopped breathing. Leary stood beside him, quiet. Her long coat flapped in the cold wind, but her face stayed calm. "They've begun," she said. Zane didn't ask who. He already knew. The shroud had returned this time, not in shadows, not in voices, but in form, in machines. In light. It started yesterday. Satellites fell from the sky like burning stones. Power grids failed. Planes vanished. People looked to the skies, waiting for answers, but none came, only silence. And then the static began buzzing from phones, radios, even empty air. Static that spoke without words. Static that made people forget who they were. Zane and Leary had left the underground chamber and traveled north, far north, to a frozen land untouched by cities. That's where the map in Zane's mind had pointed. Place older than Earth itself, the final gate. Leary stopped walking. She pointed at a mountain ahead. It wasn't tall, but it didn't feel like a mountain. It felt like something that had been buried and was waking up. "It's under there," she said. Zane nodded. As they moved closer, the temperature dropped. Not just cold but wrong. The air felt like glass. The snow didn't crunch. Their footsteps made no sound. They reached a narrow cave mouth near the bottom. Inside, the stone glowed faintly with blue lines. Zane touched one. It pulsed. Then the cave opened, not just forward, but down. A spiral of steps, carved in perfect shapes, curved into the mountain like it had been waiting for centuries. They walked without speaking. Deeper. The light followed them. At the bottom, a room waited, circular, wide, quiet. And in the center, a machine floated above the ground. Large, dark, and breathing. Zane's voice was low. "That's it." Leary stepped closer. The seat of the shroud. Zane's chest burned. This was the heart. The place where it all began. And the place it could end. He could feel it now. The light inside him. Not fire, not power, but memory. Everything the Ilari had left behind was in him. And now it was awake. He turned to Leary. "What happens if I destroy it?" She didn't answer right away. Then finally she said, "If you destroy it, the shroud will collapse, everywhere on Earth. And beyond. And what happens to me?" "The seed is connected to you," she said. "If it dies, you may too." Zane looked at the machine. It pulsed slowly, like a giant heart. He thought of his old life, the store, the city, his normal days. Then he thought of the children, who would grow up under a free sky. He stepped forward. His hand reached out. The seed spoke, not with words, but with him. It showed him Earth, burned and twisted. It showed him a path where he ran, where he hid, where he lived, but never fought. It begged him to walk away. But Zane wasn't the same person anymore. He pressed his hand to the seed. The light exploded. Not red, not blue. White. Endless. He heard Leary call his name, but her voice was far away, fading like wind through trees. He didn't scream. He didn't fall. He simply became. The world blinked. Somewhere, a machine died. Somewhere else, a mind returned to itself. And far above Earth, where the stars once watched in silence, the shroud began to break apart. In the cold morning, Leary stood alone at the edge of the mountain. The sky was moving again. Clouds drifted. Birds returned. Snow fell with sound. She held something in her hand, a small stone, warm with light. She smiled, gently. "You did it," she whispered. The hospital room was quiet. White walls, slow beeping. A soft breeze through the open window. Outside, the world was healing. Planes flew again. Phones worked. People smiled. But here, inside, time moved slowly. Zane lay in the bed, eyes closed. Doctors said he had no injuries, no burns, no brain damage. Yet he didn't wake up. He just breathed. Alive but still. Like someone caught between two dreams. Nurses came and went. They checked his charts, whispered to each other, then left with worried faces. No one knew what had happened to him. No one could explain the strange symbol on his chest, faint, glowing, always warm. And then she arrived. No one saw her walk in. No one asked questions. She didn't wear a uniform. She had no ID. She simply entered the room and sat beside the bed. Her hair was tied back. Her eyes were tired. But her voice, when she spoke, was soft and sure. "Zane, it's me." No reply. "You're somewhere far, I know," she said. "But you did it. You saved them. You saved us." She looked at his face for a long time. Her hands didn't shake, but her eyes did. "I wish I could take your place," she whispered. "You didn't ask for this. But you answered when no one else could." A tear slipped down her cheek. "You told me once, back when we were kids, that you'd protect me from monsters. I never forgot that. Even when I became something not quite human, you were still my anchor." Zane didn't move. She reached into her pocket and placed something on the table beside him, the small stone, the one he had carried without knowing. Now it was dark, quiet, finished. She stood up and walked to the door. Then she heard it, a whisper. Small, dry, leery. She turned. Zane's eyes were open. She rushed to his side. "I'm here. I'm here." His voice was weak. "I thought I was gone." "You were close," she said. "But not gone." He looked around slowly. "Is it over?" She nodded. "Yes, the sky is safe again." Zane stared at the ceiling. His eyes were tired but clear. "It felt like I was floating. Like I became light." "You became more than human," she said. "Even the shroud couldn't break you." He smiled faintly. "I didn't do it alone." "No," she said. "You never did." Silence filled the room, but it wasn't heavy. It was peace. Then Zane's voice returned, just a little stronger. "Leary, do you remember the treehouse?" She smiled. "Of course I do." "I used to wonder," he said, "if it was real." "It was," she said. "That was the first place I knew you were different, not because of power, but because you were kind." He looked at her, eyes steady. "Now, and you," he said softly, "you were always watching from the stars." She nodded. He reached out and touched her hand. "You came back," he said. "I always would." She whispered. They stayed like that, two hands holding each other in a quiet room, while the world turned gently outside, and somewhere far above, beyond clouds and satellites, something watched the earth from the dark. Not the shroud. Something else. A ship. Waiting. Not to attack, but to remember. And inside, a voice spoke. Soft, curious. "Do you recognize me, human?"